can see this bulging, crazy looking muscle into the hip flexor. That's gonna be working really well here. If you're feeling anything like me, your core is on fire. And come up all the way through and you're gonna kind of crunch. Let's get into the next exercise. Thank you, Juju. What is going on, my friends? Welcome back to another Workout Wednesday. Today, we don't have much of a workout. Rather, I'm gonna give you kind of 5 exercises to go through for your hip flexors. Now, if you don't know what your hip flexors are, it is basically right here. It's what attaches our core and torso to our legs, right? So it's kind of responsible for anything that we're doing, whether it's walking, running, sitting down, standing up. It's super essential, and just the idea of keeping our hips loose. So if you are somebody out there with tight hips and wants to start strengthening your hip flexors to then open up your hips, these exercises are going to be super awesome for you to implement into your daily life, whatever. The reason why I started doing them pretty heavily is because I'm training for this marathon, and runners, a lot of times if you have weak hip flexors, you're going to feel that throughout the run because they tire out. Again, it's what's keeping you kind of pulling together. They're constantly pulling with that flexion of the knee. So I'm going to run you through 5 different exercises in the comfort of your home. You can do it anywhere. All you're gonna need is a little resistance band and maybe a towel or like a furniture slider, but I'll get to that. I'm gonna explain each exercise and then go for the recommended reps or time for each one. That way you can have the most beneficial results to get your hip flexors flexing. With that said, before we get into it, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe on the tube of the U with me. And I'm forgetting the rest of my YouTube pitch. Oh yeah, don't forget to hit the bell icon so you're the first one to see my videos. Now, let's get into the hip flexors right now. So for our first exercise, it's not really an exercise, we're gonna get down into a stretch. We're actually gonna take the top of our foot and put it into the couch or some kind of elevated surface. This is probably the most comfortable. And I want you to think about pushing these hips forward and keeping that spine tall and straight. And we're just gonna focus on pushing these hips through and holding that position. So I'm gonna start the timer. We're gonna perform this for 20 seconds. As you move through it, think about breathing deep in through your nose. And then as you breathe out, you're kind of feeling yourself relax into that hip flexor just a little bit more. And once it hits 20 seconds, I want you to take this knee and you're gonna lunge and take that knee over the toe. Try to keep this front heel down on the ground. Come all the way back. That's 1. You're gonna feel a little bit of a calf stretch, but as you come back into it, feel that hip flexor, squeeze, and then extend at the front. We're gonna perform this for 10 reps. And we're gonna switch legs, go into that opposite leg. Take the top of the foot. Be grounded here at about 90 degrees. Find that sweet spot. Feel that hip flexor push through. Hold it for 20 seconds. Seconds. Now we're going to go into that lunge. 1, 2, second exercise, we're gonna go into kind of an isometric, which just means that we're holding that position. Isometric kind of dead bug style exercise. So a regular dead bug, you'd be here and you'd be alternating. But really, I want you to think about keeping one leg straight, keeping that belly button driven down to the ground. You're gonna flex that toe, go to 90 degrees, and you're just gonna hold both of your hands against this knee. So really we're focusing on, you're gonna push this knee into your hands and really focus on this flex of the hip flexor. So we're gonna go for 20 seconds. If you can go for 15 to 30 seconds, great. 20 seconds is kind of my sweet spot. Really trying to, as hard as you can, push that hand into the knee and push that knee into the hand, kind of going back and forth. You're gonna feel your core engage as well as that hip flexor really, really engage. Side note, I really love that we're getting a dose of Juju in these hip flexor exercises. Here we go. Start your timer, 20 seconds, go. And down into the other side. Here we go. Again, if you feel that shaking, that's okay. It just means everything's activating. Pull that toe towards you. 90 degrees, 20 seconds. Here we go. Whew, core work, hip flexor work, feeling good. Let's get into the next exercise. Thank you, Juju. Thank you. Okay. Third exercise. We're basically gonna do an extended, or I guess progressed version of what we just did with the isometric. We're still gonna be working that isometric, I guess, movement, but in a different way. So the leg that's working is the one that's holding. We're gonna take the band around our feet. We're gonna be, again, in this position, keeping those shoulder blades a little bit off the ground to engage the core. You're gonna be at 90 degrees. And again, when I kick down with this foot, this is the leg that's working. So I want you to really focus on this muscle being used. Not sure if you can see it, but when I hold it this way, you can see this bulging, crazy looking muscle into the hip flexor. That's gonna be working really well here as I spin around. So again, you can just put your feet, hands at the ground. You're just gonna kick down, come back, alternate. Nice and slow, controlled, focusing on the breath. We're gonna go for 15 here on each. Holy core. Oh my goodness. All right, fourth exercise. We're basically gonna be in that same position. It's the next progression. We're gonna be taking those feet from that starting position straight out at about 6 inches. Again, your core is gonna be working. Mine's on fire, but then you're gonna take that toe and kind of crunch your knee in. So now instead of isometrically contracting and holding that position, we're now getting into a concentric So just like a bicep curl, when you squeeze, that is concentric. When you lengthen, that is eccentric. So we're gonna work that on both hip flexors instead of that isometric again. We're gonna get into it. So you'll have your hands here. If you wanna go into the butt, that's okay. Feet out, you're just crunching that knee straight in. Again, hip flexors being worked right here concentrically, then the eccentric, come back into it, alternating. Nice and slow, we'll go for 15 reps. If you can get at least 5 on each, that is ideal. That's all I got. If you're feeling anything like me, your core is on fire, and so are your hip flexors. If you're ever doing core and you do feel those hip flexors really start to tighten, it's because, again, they're doing their job, right? They are helping keep your core and your legs involved. And generally when you're doing some kind of core or ab workout, your feet are involved or your legs are involved. So that's why you feel that. These are great exercises to help strengthen that. That way that pain kind of goes away when you are doing it. But it's not even pain, it's just activation. But let's get into the 5th exercise. Exercise numero 5. Number 5, here we go. So all you're gonna need is a towel. If you'd like to use a towel, if you've got a furniture slider, that's great as well. This is kind of a regression of the last one. It's gonna be a little bit easier, but still working the same. So it's gonna be quadruped, which means you're on all fours. So I want you to focus on keeping those hands under the shoulders and then your knees under your hips, right? So everything's at 90 degrees. And for this exercise that we are, or the leg that we're using, we're gonna have the opposite leg on the ground, and then this toe is simply just gonna push back through the toe, flex, and come up all the way through, and you're gonna kind of crunch. You're gonna feel your core right there. We're gonna go for 15 on each side. Breathe out on the way up. Feel that core engage. Really important to extend right here, getting those glutes involved. That is all 5 exercises for you, my friends. Again, you're gonna feel your core really engage throughout the entirety of those movements from start to finish. If you wanna use these exercises all together as a whole, which is what I do personally for my routine, then that's a great option. But if not, you can just take 1 or 2 or 3, however many you want, and implement them into your strength training. I recommend trying these before a workout, especially if you're gonna have some kind of heavy compound lift. Anything with the barbell, that is, essentially, because that's gonna be a more full body type movement. That's gonna incorporate those hip flexors, trying to keep everything together, right? So again, I hope you took something away. There was some kind of value. I appreciate you watching, tuning in. If you want more workouts, stretches, anything like that, nutritional advice, you can go to my app at www.nickwalkerfitness.app. That's APP. And then I was gonna say .com, but that would be false and I'd be lying to you. So with that said, hope you have an awesome freaking day, and don't forget to smile.